Hey, Jersey Devil 1976 here. Well, it's been a while since I did any videos on modeling, so I thought I would show you how I make barbed wire. Now, it's pretty easy to do. Doesn't require a lot of tools or supplies. It can be a little time consuming, but once you kind of practice it a little bit and get used to it, you can make it quite quick. All you really need is some floral wire. And you can get this at craft stores. It's a pretty thin gauge. You can use thicker gauges. I just like the thinner gauge. I think it just looks a little bit better. You're going to need a pair of clippers to cut the wire, super glue, and for braiding the wire, you can either use a drill gun, or I just use a pencil or a piece of styrene rod to just twist the wire. This is just the way I do it, so I'll just show you that. If you want to use a drill to twist your wire. But for me, I just like to hand twist it. Basically, you're just going to cut yourself a piece of wire. I usually work with pieces that are about 2 feet long. So cut yourself a piece of wire, however long. I usually cut them about 4 feet long, and I cut them and fold them in half. And then once it's twisted up, it shrinks down to about 22 inches or so. So that's a pretty decent size. But for this, I'm just going to use a shorter piece of wire. One, to save time, and two, it's a little bit easier to work in front of the camera with this smaller piece here. So just going to grab the two ends here, and you just slide the pencil down through the looped end. And then you're just going to go ahead and just start twisting this wire. You don't want too much pressure on it because you don't want the loop to snap down there. And you don't really need that tight of a coil on it. Just kind of slowly twist it to kind of braid those two wires together. And if you are going to be making a whole bunch of it, yeah, it probably is easier to just use a drill gun, because that you could probably do this here in just like a couple seconds, but it's late at night and my kids are sleeping, so I'm not going to be running a drill gun. And we're almost done. You just go until you're all out of wire. This is the long, slow boring part. This is good for stress though. It's nice and quiet. Especially if you have a long day at work or something like that. Takes your mind off everything. Okay, so there you go. Let's see if you can see it there. Nice thin braided wire. Now, just slide it off your pencil or whatever you're wrapping it with. And now we're going to start working on the barbs. Get this piece nice and straight. Now for the barbs, you're going to go ahead and just cut yourself another piece of wire. And you're usually going to have to cut a piece probably about 2/3 as long as the piece you're working with. But if you're working with like a really long piece, just keep it on the spool and just let it run off to the side so you don't run out. Actually, I'm not going to do the whole piece right here. I have another pre-made piece that I made. I'm just going to show you how to make the loops right here. And then I'll show you what it looks like. So, you got your wire. Come down here. This little loop is also helpful. Gives you something to hold on to. Gonna wrap up the barbs here. You're just gonna wrap it around here 3 times, or you can do it as many times as you want. Like I said, this is just the way I do it. Make sure that first one's nice and tight. Keep them nice and close together. There you go. That one a little bit closer. A little bit tighter. Okay, so there's your first one. That's usually the hardest one to do. After that, these get a little bit easier. Basically, all you're going to do is going to bend this wire over, like so, and then you'll just start wrapping it from there. Now, you can use like anything you want, a pen or a pencil or whatever, to kind of space these out. I just like I like to eyeball it. About 1/4 inch a piece or apart is pretty good. Like I said, just wrap it 3 times, and that's what you got right there. So you can make them as far apart as you want or closer together. I've kind of noticed that the closer they are together, the better it looks. So anywhere between like maybe 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch spaced is pretty good. And you're just going to keep doing this all the way down this length of wire. And again, I'm going kind of slow because I'm showing y'all. I usually, well, I'm a little out of practice, but when I was doing this like every day for a project, I could go through it pretty quick. So that's what you're going to end up with. You're just going to keep going until all your wire's gone. Just pull them nice and tight and they won't move. Yeah, I've cut this piece a little short, so I'm practically already out, but that's okay because this is just a little practice piece. So there you are, and you're just gonna keep going until you're all done. Now here's a bigger piece that I've already made, and you see it's pretty long. So after you get all this done, what you're going to do is you're going to come back with the super glue, and you're just going to put a little bit on each of these little barbs. But basically that's just going to keep these in place so that when you cut off this loop part here, they won't be sliding up and down on the coiled piece of wire you got. So you just take your clippers now, and this piece has already been glued. I'm not going to sit there and make you guys watch glue dry. And I just go right up one side at a time. And you can make these barbs as long or as short as you want. I think you're doing like Imperial Guard or Space Marines or something. Make them kind of not too long. If you're doing like Chaos or Orcs or something, they're a little bit, make them a little bit longer, just looks like crazy mean. So there's that. One side you can see. Now do be careful, these things are very sharp. They may not look it, but they are, and I have caught myself once or twice and kind of especially on some longer barbs, it like stuck up under my skin. So just be really careful. And even if you want to make like a coil, if you're doing like an obstacle course or an obstacle for your an obstacle for your table, while it's in this form, I like to use Sharpie marker. It's a pretty good size. Just go ahead and wrap it around this to make your coils. And then go ahead and clip off all the loops. It's a little bit easier to handle rather than trying to wrap it when it's all barbed like this, because it will stick you. And if you don't like the size of the coil, it is still very flexible, and you just flatten it back out. No big deal. So you can reshape it however you want. But let's quickly just finish up this last piece here. I'll do some long barbs on this side so you can kind of see a difference. You cut them almost all the way at the top of the loop there. So there you go. And then, like I said, it's usually a little easier to do this beforehand if you're going to coil it, but just be really careful. And then once it's like this, you can kind of stretch it out however you want, shape it. You know, glue it down to some bases for your models, or as some scenery or something like that, or coil it up on like a spool for like a tank or something like that. And it looks really cool. And I mean, you don't really have to paint it all that much, and just give it a wash of some blacks and browns and stuff like that, and it looks really good. And then again, you know, if you want, you can coil up another piece and like kind of intertwine the two, so you kind of have like almost like a double row. It would look pretty nasty to try to get through. So really easy to make some terrain out of this stuff, or decorate your models or whatever. I don't think I have any on any bases that I have right now. So, like I said, pretty easy to do, not a lot of supplies or tools needed, and it can be a little time consuming, but it's well worth it because it looks, I think, a lot better than just, you know, that razor wire stuff that GW sells. Just give your model a little bit more realism. So, any questions or comments, just let me know, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.